Hi everyone, this is Rosie. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to upload your favorite PDF sewing pattern to Cricut Design Space to cut on the Cricut Maker. I will be using the popular and free Clematis wristlet pattern from Blue Calla Patterns for this demonstration. Celine, who is the owner and designer at Blue Calla, was kind enough to give me permission to use her pattern in this video. I have an affiliate link in the video description below for the Blue Calla website. Please check out all of Celine's beautiful patterns. So let's get started. First off, you need to download your pattern if you haven't already done that. And I am going to download a free pattern from Blue Calla Patterns. Now, you need to remember that this is intellectual property. It's copyrighted. So even though it's a free pattern, you're doing this only for your own use. You cannot prepare this file to cut on the Cricut Maker and share it with anybody else. It's for your own personal use. After I downloaded the PDF pattern, I opened it up in iBooks on my iPad. And you can see all the pages here from the pattern. And I want to use the 3 pages down here on the bottom that have the pattern pieces. So I'm going to just touch it. And what I want to do is take a picture of it. So it's a screenshot. And to take a screenshot on an iPad, you hold down the on-off key and the home screen button at the same time. You just hold them, it'll flash, and now it's actually saved that picture, that screenshot, in your camera roll. So now I want to go back and get the second pattern page. Again, I'm pressing in the on-off key and the home key at the same time. Now that one is saved. And now I want to save this one on my camera roll. Same thing. You're going to depress the on-off key and the home key at the same time. So now if I get out of here and I go into my camera roll, I see my 3 images there. This is my camera roll. Now what I want to do is I want to go over to Design Space. I'm selecting the Cricut app and I'm going to hit New Project. And I want to replace what was previously on my canvas. And now I want to upload those screenshots that I just took. So I go down to the bottom left corner of the screen and I hit the Upload button. And it gives me the option to select a photo from the library. And here are my 3 screenshots that I took. And now what I need to do is I need to remove the white section and the gray section. So I hit the remove wand down here at the bottom. And all I need to do is tap the gray, tap the white. I'm not tapping inside of the pattern piece. I'm tapping outside of it. So all the white that's around the pattern piece, and then tap the gray section and I get a checkerboard. And the checkerboard tells me that now that background is transparent. And the next thing that I need to do is get rid of these black lines. So I'm going to hit the erase. And now I'm just going to touch the screen. And I have a little circle that's acting like an eraser and I can take out that black line. This right here is the cut view, and we're just going to move that out of the way right now. And then again, I touch on this side of the screen and I erase that black line. Then I hit Next, and it gives me the option to refine my image, so I can take out any like speckles that might be on there, or I can smooth lines, but I don't need to do that with this file because this is a really good file. And now I want to save it as a cut file, so I tap on where it says Cut Image, and I'm going to give it a name. And then I can save it. And now you can see it's in my section with uploaded images. So it's right here in the top left corner of the screen. So now we need to upload our next pattern page. So right now we're just going to close out of this screen and it brings us back to the canvas. And then we go to Upload and again select photo from my library. And now we need to get the second page there. I'm going to tap on the wand again and I'm going to tap the gray the white, and the gray. And now I need to use the eraser again. And when you're using the eraser, make sure that you don't erase any of your pattern piece. Move this out of the way and erase the other line, and then hit next. And I don't need to refine anything, so I'm hitting next again. I'm going to save it as a cut file and then save. And now I have the two uploaded images there, but again I need to go back and get that third page. So I'm back on the canvas, and I'm going to upload again from my photo library. And I'm going to hit the remove wand again, tap the gray, tap the white, tap the gray. And then I'm going to use the eraser tool again to get rid of these black lines. Okay, now we hit next. I don't need to do any refining, so hit next and save it as a cut file. Okay, and save. Now I just want to show you one special situation that I've encountered in uploading patterns. I have a pattern piece right here. It's not for any bag. It's just something that I just drafted up real quick just for demonstration purposes. You can see that there is a dotted line where the fold would be, like where you would place the pattern on the fold of the fabric instead of a solid line. I want to show you what happens because that dotted line is there. So first I'm going to take the wand and I'm going to remove the gray section on the left, and then I'm going to remove the white section in the middle and then the gray section on the left again. Now you can see, unlike the other patterns, everything inside the actual pattern piece is now changed to a checkerboard instead of remaining white. What's actually happening here is that the Cricut is going to think that all those black lines are actually cut lines, so it's just going to cut out very thin lines. It's not going to give you your entire pattern piece. It does not like the dotted line. So there are one of two things that you can do to fix the problem. One is that you can take your pattern pieces and upload them into a digital software where you can actually go in and draw the line in digitally. That would be a program such as like Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, or perhaps Procreate if you have an iPad. The other method, which is probably the easier thing to do, is print out every single one of your pattern pieces, and then you're going to just take a straight ruler and draw the line in, or whatever lines are missing, you're going to draw those lines in. And then you're going to take all the pages that you printed out and you're going to rescan them with your printer as PDF files. And from there you can go in and take your screenshots. And I do recommend that you print out all of the pattern pages and then rescan all of the pattern pages, as opposed to doing just the ones that need to have the dotted lines filled in. And then up here in the top left corner are the 3 files that I just uploaded, and now I can actually choose all 3 of them just by tapping on them and click insert, and it will bring everything to my canvas. So here we are on the canvas, and I have the 3 uploaded files that I just created. Now what we want to do is attach all of these. So all I do is put my finger on the screen and run it over the 3 images here, and I click Actions, Attach. Now you'll notice that there are 3 squares here, and what those squares are registration marks. Basically, when you print out your PDF pattern on a printer, it will print those squares, and they should be exactly 1 inch once they're printed. So after you print your PDF file on a printer, those registration squares, if they measure exactly 1 inch, that tells you that your pattern piece is printed out the correct size. So we're going to use those same registration squares in Design Space to make sure that our pattern pieces are the correct size in Design Space. So what we need to do is make sure that these squares fit into one of our little gridded 1-inch squares on here. And actually, before you do it, you need to make sure that this little lock right here is locked. If it's not going to do it proportionally, and it's going to mess up all your pieces. So that's a really important step there. Now we're going to just move this little blue arrow button until that little square fits into one of the little squares on our grid. And it's just a little bit of trial and error here. So just do that until it gets to be just the right size. Can make the screen a little bit bigger here. It's still not quite right. So make it a little bit smaller. It's a little tedious, but it's really not that tedious. It doesn't take very long. And that right there looks pretty good to me. So now that we've done that, we're ready for the next step. And what we want to do now is detach these 3 pieces from each other. So we're going to hit Actions, Detach. And now I have 3 separate pieces again. Okay, so now what we need to do is, you can see this is all one piece, this is all one piece, and this is all one piece. We need to separate out the pieces. So we'll put these 2 aside. I'm going to work on this one right now. I'm going to add a shape, and I'm going to add a square. I'll move the square over here, and I want to place the square over the square on that file that we uploaded. And I'm going to select them, and Actions, I want to choose Slice. And I move this out of the way. I don't need it anymore. And now my square is a separate piece. And if I want to check the size, I can go down here to Edit, and it tells me that my width and my height is 1 inch. So now I know that all my pieces, all my pattern pieces are correctly sized. Now this is still one image here, so we need to separate these 2 pieces. So you'll add another shape, which is a square, and I'm going to go into Layers and change the color of that to white, because it'll be a little bit easier to work with here. And now we do want to unlock the lock, because we're actually just going to make this into a rectangle. We'll send it to the back. So that's Edit, Arrange, move to the back, and now we can see where we are for placement. And I'm just rotating it a little bit because I don't want it to cut into this piece here. So by rotating it, I get it to fit in the space where I need it to be. And now I select them both, and I hit Actions, Slice. I can take this piece away and get rid of it. And now I have 2 pattern pieces right here that are already separated. Now we'll work on this one. So again, add a shape, square. Here's my square over here. Place it over the square on the image. Select them both, Actions, Slice. And now I can get rid of this. This is now separated. I can go to Edit, and it says 1 inch by 1 inch for my width and my height. So that's perfect. And here's my next pattern piece. And then we'll take this one, add a shape, add a square. Whoops, what did I just do? I just place my square over the square on the image, select both of them, and then go Actions, Slice. Get rid of that. This square is now separated. And again, we can go to Edit and check the size. It's 1 inch wide, 1 inch high. That's perfect. And now here is my last pattern piece. So I can get these squares out of the way. I don't really need them anymore now that I know my pattern pieces are the correct size. And I'm going to go into the layers panel, and I just want to make that be a white image. And I want this to be a white image. Okay, so now here are all my pieces. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate this. Now these ones I still have to do some more work with, because in the PDF pattern, these straight lines right here, that is to place on the fold of the fabric. But we're not going to have fold of the fabric on the Cricut Maker, so we need to make sure that this is one piece, you know, left and right sides. So I'm going to hit duplicate, and that would be actions, duplicate. Now I have two of them, and I need to flip one of them. So I go to edit, and I want to flip it horizontally. Now I have two. I'm going to make this a little bit larger here. And I'm going to place them together. And here's where the smart guides come into play again. I love these smart guides. It tells me that my top, middle, and my bottom are completely aligned. And I just do it until they touch. Now, this is important. You need to really make this larger, because if you look right down here, you're going to see there's a little gap right there. That means that they're really not touching completely, because we need to weld these pieces together. If we weld them right now, what's going to happen is it's going to make a little cut right there, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to just click on one half. I'm just going to move it over just slightly until it becomes one piece. And now when I select everything and hit actions, weld, it's going to make it one piece without any little cuts in that area there. Okay, now that one is all set. Now we're going to do work on this one right here. And again, we want to hit actions, duplicate, and now I have two, and this one we want to flip, so we're going to go to edit, horizontal, and then oops, I didn't want to do that. Let's undo that. Okay, now we want to put them together, and again, if I make it larger, there's a little gap right there. We don't want the gap. And just to demonstrate this, I'll show you. If I weld them right now, if I hit actions, weld, you see that little line right there? That little line is telling me that that's a cut line, and we don't want that to happen. So let's hit undo. And now we're going to move the two pieces just slightly together a little bit more, just to get rid of that little gap. I still see a little gap. It's not quite close enough yet. Okay, there we go. Now, if I select them and hit weld, I don't get that little cut gap there. So now we have 1, 2, 3, and this is the last piece that we need to work on. So we're going to hit duplicate. It's actions, duplicate again, and then we want to flip that one horizontally. So we go edit, horizontal, and we'll make it bigger so that we can, whoops. Be careful with that resizing thing. Sometimes with your fingers on the screen, you do things you don't want to do. So just be careful. Okay. So yeah, I can see that there's a little gap right there. So I'm just going to move them just slightly closer. Still a little gap. You don't want to move it too much. Just slightly. This one is a little bit harder. Okay, there we go. And now actions, weld. Okay, and that is basically it. You have your your 4 pattern pieces right there ready to cut out on the Cricut Maker. So one other thing I want to show you is when you're making something like this, this is a little wristlet bag. you are generally going to be using interfacing. So one thing I like to do is, we'll use this piece as an example. I want to cut out my interfacing on the Cricut Maker also, but I don't like my interfacing to go into the seam lines a lot of times. So what I can do is I can take this piece right here and I can duplicate it. And now this piece, I'm going to look and see what the size of it is. So I go to edit. And it tells me it's 7.9 wide by 5 high. Now, if I want to have 1/4 inch sewing seams, then I would want my interfacing to be a 1/2 inch smaller all around. So, and that's because I have a 1/4 inch seam on both the left and the right side and a 1/4 inch seam on the top and the bottom. So that would add up to 1/2 inch for each size. So I need to make this whole piece overall a 1/2 inch smaller. So I go into my width and I'm going to make that 7.4 instead of 7.9. And this one I'm going to make 4.5 instead of the 5. And now I have a piece that's slightly smaller, and if I put them together, you can see that my interfacing piece after it's cut out would really fit very nicely onto the actual fabric piece and give me my 1/4 inch seam allowance all around. And the reason why I do that is because I just don't like to have a lot of bulk in my seams when I'm working. So, and it also makes a nicer finished product when you turn everything inside out or right side out. Another advantage to uploading your patterns like this is that you can easily resize them. So if you want to make your bag a little larger, it's much easier to do it this way than to redraft everything out mechanically. The only thing that you would need to keep in mind is when you do resize them, you want to select all of your pattern pieces and change the size that way so that everything changes proportionally. And the last thing that I recommend is that before you cut out your fabric, cut out these pieces on paper first, just to make sure that everything fits together properly. Anyway, that's it. This is how I like to prepare my PDF sewing patterns to cut on the Cricut Maker. And again, remember, this is for your own personal use. You do not share these files. It is someone else's property. Please like and subscribe. Please join my Facebook group. It's Cricut Everyday Maker. I will show that down below.